Praise be Jesus Christ. Good evening. I hope this has been a great day for all of you. And thank you once again for traveling. For those of you who had to come some distance just to be together to praise the Lord. Sometimes, in life, we run into some embarrassing situations. And I think one of the most embarrassing situations in my life was at senior prom. So here it is, it's senior prom, and I'm trying to be the perfect gentleman, throughout the evening. And after one of the dances, my date and I came back to the table, and where we were sitting, and being a gentleman, I pulled back the chair for her to sit down, and I pulled it back just a little bit too far. And boom, she ended up on the floor. Now look what happened to me. All kidding aside, that prom event had nothing to do with the discernment of my vocation to priesthood and now as a bishop. And you heard a bit of that story of my discernment earlier today. But it raises a little bit more of a question, how do we discern vocations? And in particular, I'd like to focus on discerning the vocation of marriage. Tomorrow happens to be World Marriage Day. And we're preaching on marriage throughout the diocese this weekend. And so how do we discern a vocation to marriage? How do you know if this is what God is calling you to? And I'd like to start by looking a little bit at what marriage is. Because you have to know a little bit what it is to be able to discern whether you're being called to it. And to think a bit about marriage, and especially the sacrament of marriage, I think it's helpful to look at the promises that a man and woman make to each other on their wedding day. So when a man and woman are married, they make these promises. I promise to be true to you in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health. I will love you and honor you all the days of my life. I promise to be true to you in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health. I will love you and honor you all the days of my life. And if we reflect on these promises and really what they mean, I think we can have a good understanding about what marriage is, and especially this sacrament of marriage. Note that a man and woman are promising to each other that their love is going to be unconditional. It's going to be faithful. I promise to be true to you. Promising a faithful love. And unconditional. Good times and in bad, in sickness and in health, no matter what happens, I'm promising to be faithful to you. I'm promising to love you. It's a pretty big promise. And the second part of that promise, I will love you and honor you all the days of my life. I'll love you always. Today, tomorrow, the next day, the next day, the next day, the next day. Always. Permanently. Now there's only, one love that really lives up to those promises. And that's the love of God shown forth for us in Jesus Christ. All we need to do is turn our eyes toward Calvary to see the greatest expression of love that the world has ever known. And we see there a love that is ever faithful and true. We see there a love that is unconditional. Jesus died for us while we were sinners. Didn't matter what we did, he still loves us. And it's a love that's permanent, doesn't go away. And so, if you're discerning a vocation to marriage, I think it's helpful to reflect on those promises and see if within your heart you are really being moved by the grace of God to have that kind of love for another person, knowing that you can't do it by yourself, and the only way you can live up to that is through the grace and strength of Jesus Christ. And when we fall short, and husbands and wives do fall short, to once again turn back to God and ask his grace and to ask his strength, to keep trying to get better, to grow into and that wonderful vocation to which a husband and wife is called. You see, part of the vocation of marriage is to be the sign of Christ's love for his church by the love that a husband shows his wife, or by the love a wife shows her husband. And as we talked about earlier today, there are so many people that are looking for something, that have this yearning, that have this longing for something missing in their life, and they need to discover and find the love of Jesus Christ. And a husband and wife are to be a beacon of that love in the world by the love that they show for each other, so people can encounter Christ through them. And so, is this the vocation to which you are called? To be this example of the love of Christ, for your husband or for your wife or your children. And see, marriage has two purposes. It's this permanent partnership between one man and one woman that has a purpose of having and raising children, and it's also for the good of the spouses. And so you might ask, Lord, am I called to have children and introduce them to you? Am I called to spend my life helping my children get to heaven? Am I called to spend my life helping my husband or my wife get to heaven? It's for the good of the spouses, of course. And so the mutual love that a husband and wife share for each other enriches, the couple. But it's also ordered to something greater, pointing to Jesus Christ. So some things to think about and pray about. Am I being called to love this man or this woman with a love that's ever faithful and true, unconditional, permanent, to be that love of Jesus Christ? Am I being called through marriage to be a beacon of Christ's love in the world? Am I being called through marriage to help my children get to heaven, spend the rest of my life doing that, and help my spouse get to heaven? heaven as well. Now, the gospel reading today kind of gives us a little clue or a little hint of also something that we need to ask ourselves to see if we're ready for marriage, or the person we might be thinking about marrying is ready for marriage. You know, our gospel opens when Jesus is going into the house of Simon Peter, and he cures Simon Peter's mother-in-law. And then the gospel relates that she got up and she served them, she waited on them. It's curious that the gospel would mention that. But that line has a very profound meaning and purpose. It's not to mean that the mother-in-law is meant to be a slave. That's not why it's there. It shows something about the power of God's grace and the power of God's healing and an essential dimension of discipleship. That being touched by God's healing is to empower us and strengthen us to serve. To be touched by God's love is to empower us and strengthen us to serve. That God works all kinds of wonders in our life to transform our hearts, to heal our brokenness, to empower us and strengthen us to serve. And so if you might be contemplating the vocation of marriage someday, a question to ask yourself, have I been so touched by God's love, have I been so touched by God's healing, that I have been empowered and strengthened to spend the rest of my life in service to my husband, to my wife, to my children, to the community, to the church? Am I ready? Has God healed me? Has He touched me? Has He empowered me to serve? And then we might ask, the same question about the person you might be thinking about marrying. Has this person been so touched and healed by the power of God's love that he or she is ready and willing to spend his or her life in service? Marriage is a very beautiful, very holy, a sacred vocation. It's a sign of Christ's love in the world, and it's not meant to be just taken lightly. But considered thoughtfully, considered prayerfully. It begins with asking, what, Lord, are you calling me to do in my life? What is my vocation? How are you calling me to serve you? It is certainly, my hope and prayer that, this day you have encountered Jesus Christ in a deeper way. And if you feel that it hasn't quite happened, don't be surprised by what God might be doing behind the scenes. And continue to open up your heart to Him. Like Simon, Peter's mother-in-law, may you be so touched by the healing love and grace of Jesus Christ, that your life be transformed, and that you be empowered to serve.